Something that really me off as a financial planner is reading headlines about billions being wiped off the value of the stock market. We so rarely hear about the opposite, the days on which billions are wiped on. Today is one of those days, with the FTSE 100 index of leading UK company shares closing up 3.47% on the day at 6,841.86 points. I've said before in my videos that it's not always easy to attribute reasons to stock market surges or indeed to stock market declines. Today though, let's have a go at looking at the reasons why the FTSE is up so strongly. Before we get into that, hello everyone, I'm Martin Bamford, a chartered financial planner and personal finance YouTuber. On this channel, I talk about personal finance, investing and happiness. I make these videos to help you become wealthier and happier. If that sounds like a great result, click on that little red subscribe button, become a part of our subscriber community. It's completely free and you'll never miss an episode. A lot of today's growth in the FTSE seems to have been driven by expectations of more fiscal stimulus in the United States. All eyes right now are on the Georgia Senate race, where Democrats are on track to take control. That's President-elect Joe Biden's party, by the way, and control of the Senate would give Biden a great deal more power to push through his agenda. It's a rerun of the election in Georgia because of a state rule saying that one candidate must secure at least 50% of the vote to win. Now, there's two races taking place, and in one of them, 98% of the votes have been counted. US TV networks and the Associated Press have called the win for the first of the two elections there for the Democrat candidate. And the other race for the Senate seat does appear to be slightly tighter, but we'll hopefully find out that result later today. Why this interest in slightly obscure US politics all of a sudden? Well, if the Democrats control the Senate and new US President Joe Biden can push through his agenda, then that's likely to mean more expansionary US fiscal policy and also higher taxes in the states. A note today from Deutsche Bank analysts said, our US economists have indicated that a Democrat Senate would likely lead to another large fiscal stimulus package, possibly including some priorities of the new administration such as infrastructure. They see that as a material upside to their GDP forecast, which they currently see rising 4.3% Q4 to Q4 in 2021. But is Democrat control of the Senate for the start of Biden's presidency and the prospect of more fiscal stimulus in the states really enough to push the FTSE 100 up by this much? It's certainly good news for the financial sector, which makes up a sizable portion of the index, and also for the industrials sector. In my recent video, I'll link up here, about poor performance of the FTSE 100 in 2020, I referenced the index being sometimes called a 20th century index. It's light on tech and it's heavy on more traditional sectors, including banking, commodities and industrials. What I think we might be witnessing today is a bit of a rebalancing away from the new school and back towards the old school, so allow me to explain what I mean by that. While the Democrats leading the Senate is very good news likely for industrials and financials, it's probably going to create some short-term headwinds for tech companies. Looking back at 2020, it was the year of the tech company, with the tech-heavy S&P 500 doing incredibly well and the tech-underweight FTSE 100 index doing poorly. Tim Chubb, who is Chief Investment Officer at Girard Advisory Services, said in Reuters today, there will be beneficiaries of a democratic sweep and there are companies in the Nasdaq, technology and healthcare, that could potentially face some short-term headwinds when it comes to higher taxes and more regulation, impacting their bottom lines. We've seen this fear of headwinds for tech today, with the Nasdaq slipping back 0.7% earlier, as the likes of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook and Alphabet, the owners of Google, losing up to 2% each. Of course, the S&P is heavily weighted towards these tech giants, these FANG stocks too. Tesla, on the other hand, is actually doing pretty well today. Rather than today being an especially good news day for the global economy, my contention here is that we've seen good news focused on the typical makeup, the typical companies of the FTSE 100 index, and to some extent the other indices across Europe where there's positive gains too. There is plenty of gloomy economic news around today as well, just to maintain some sort of balance. We've heard Boris Johnson, British Prime Minister today, say that a national lockdown in England will be slowly unwrapped. He was warned in Parliament that the third national lockdown will require gradual unwrapping over time. Sounds like a really horrible present. But he also pledged that schools would be the very first thing to reopen, which I'm sure is very welcoming news to any parents who are watching this video. Back across the pond in the United States, we've seen some quite poor economic data. Private companies losing staff in December for the first time in 8 months. The ADP National Employment Report out today reported job losses across all sectors in December and suggests that the US economy is heading back into recession in the near term as COVID cases there surge ahead and more lockdown measures need to be introduced. Today's performance of the FTSE, with billions being wiped on, is a useful reminder for investors of a couple of key things. Firstly, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Yes, tech stocks were fantastic last year, but you should not bank on one sector consistently driving market returns each and every year. Tech might very well be the future, but it should only form part of your overall portfolio. So many investors learnt that lesson the hard way during the tech bubble of 20 years ago. Secondly, keep in mind that for every time you see a headline saying that billions of pounds have been wiped off the index, there are days like today when billions get wiped back on. The most successful investors do their level best to ignore the short-term noise surrounding the markets. And yes, I'm very conscious that this video is potentially adding to that short-term noise, although I hope it contains some valuable lessons too. Think about investing in terms of years or decades, not in terms of days, weeks, or months. When you see sensationalist headlines about the markets, find something more interesting to watch on television. There's some great stuff on Netflix. And when you hear journalists getting worked up about the FTSE 100, keep in mind, as I've said before, that the FTSE 100 is an extremely poor proxy for either the UK or global equity markets. Please do not use it as your benchmark for your equity portfolio performance. Would you like to receive a short email from me in your inbox every Wednesday? One went out earlier today. Head along to sendfox.com/Bamford to register for Midweek Money. It's my weekly roundup of personal finance news and tips, and it is completely free. Sendfox.com/Bamford to sign up now. Thank you for watching this video. Until next time, I'm Martin Bamford, and remember, when it comes to your money, the more you know, the faster it can grow.